Yo, how's it going, man? You are on. Is this Marcus? Is that your name?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I had two audios going on.
Nah, that's cool. So what you want to do is keep the, hey, by the way, when you come on the screen, you mostly want to, once you get on, you want to use the audio from Zoom because that's the one I'm talking to, but you want to keep your Twitch on with your audio muted on Twitch. And that way you can watch what's happening in class, but you're not going to have two audios. You're only going to have the audio from Zoom because that's the live one. Twitch is, and we're going to get this by the end of the semester, we'll be rocking it, but Twitch is about 6 to 8 seconds behind where I'm talking right now. So if I turn Twitch on my phone, it's going to be 6 to 8 seconds behind. So like Marcus right now, he can hear me in real time as I'm talking, but I'm 8 seconds behind on Twitch. So that's why you keep your Twitch volume off. Just keep the video going. So when I put stuff up that I want you to look at, you'll be able to see it, but you'll see it 8 seconds later. All right. Anyway, okay. Back to Marcus. So listen. So you're a science person.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's that? What's your major? Like, what are you?
I'm trying to go into material science and engineering.
Yeah. Where are you from?
I'm from just north of Atlanta in Cumming, Georgia.
Yeah. Hey, how do you pronounce your last name, by the way?
Shotes, like chef with the ch.
Yep. All right, man. So as a science person, are you religious?
I am actually.
Yeah. What's your religious affiliation?
I'm a non-denominational Christian.
Yeah. So how do you balance that out with science and creation and faith and the creation story? Like, where are you at on that?
Yeah, it is kind of hard. I do, because most of the science community, especially the ones dealing with physics and astrophysics, most of them are either agnostic or atheist, and it's kind of hard to balance my faith and what I believe in with also concrete evidence too. I would like to believe that there is God and that existence itself has to have spawned from some essential existence. But I do believe, I don't think you can really believe in science. I think science is evident.
Yeah.
But I do think that I do follow science in those.
Okay, well, listen, let me ask you this question. Why? So we're starting out here, like, before we really start talking about questions of human differences and especially questions related to equality and inequality, it's really important that we talk about how we got here, because this says a lot about how we tell that story. So let me ask you, as someone who is planning to be a trained scientist and as a Black man, right? What's your ancestry?
Like immediately it's from America, but you're saying like previously, like
where are your parents from? Are you African American? Are your parents African? Are they recent immigrants or from the Caribbean?
No.
Okay.
I'm African American, and they've been here for a while.
Okay. All right. So how you tell the story about how we got here really matters for you as a scientist and then as a man who is as an African American man. So why do you think it's important? Like, what do you know about creationism and about evolution that would tell you, hey, this is really, really important how I tell this story?
I think it's really important because it kind of tells you how we are culturally and how we are, I guess, phenotypically with our features,
Yeah.
Because depending on different ways, I guess, you look at it, or like the views of the Bible, I guess it tells you different things in a way. But going on like genetics and what we know of in terms of archaeology, I think it's important to look at the fact of radiocarbon dating and trying to figure out where we actually started.
Okay.
And
so
how
here,
our features mold from there.
Yep. Okay. Right. So there are one of the longest lasting explanations one of the most deeply divisive explanations, what we call the foundations of modern day racism, is that there is a physiological difference between different racial groups that leads certain racial groups to be inferior and other racial groups to be superior. And how we define those racial groups or how we decide where they come from matters for how we see the world of inferiority and superiority. Like slavery in the United States is fundamentally based on a racist notion that people of African ancestry are physiologically inferior to people of European ancestry, not just culturally, but physiologically. Like you and I have different genetic dispositions. So how do you balance that? Like how do you make sense of that between science and creation? Like what would be your response if I said to you, hey, listen, man, the fact is, my friend, white people, look around, look at European, look at white culture and what white people have been able to do. Clearly we are biologically, forget about morally and socially and culturally, that's irrelevant. Biologically, we are clearly superior to people of your ancestry group, people of your race. How would you respond to that?
I would kind of respond to say that regardless of what you guys see yourselves as now, you guys did originate from dark-skinned Black Africans in East Africa, and that the only reason why you see yourself as different, like phenotypically, is because I think the melanin production, as you go up through natural selection, it kind of, the environment will favor a lighter skin because you need less melanin for things away from the equator. And also I would kind of like tell them to look at ancient African history, like the ancient like Kemet and
all right. So listen, so so this is good. Like you're like going around, right? You're 18 years old, you know what I mean? So you're going around. That's cool. But I could say, yeah, well, but skin color is only one. Look, DNA admixture is really complex. Skin color is just one thing. There's also all the genetic factors and forces to give rise to intellect and to, drive and tenacity and all these other kinds of things, right? So clearly there's something else going on. So what would you say, what would the creationists, by the way, is there anybody on the stream who's very much a Christian on this? Did we have a person who is, you just said that. Well, hang on. You know what? I'm going to stick, wait, do we have somebody else? Or do you identify as who is this, by the way?
I'm not sure. I have sent the messages to see. We have
Yeah.
a person who knows that they were Christian.
Yeah. Hang on. You know what? I'm just going to stick with Marcus here. So pin Marcus back on. We're just going to you're on with this, my friend. Okay. Okay. Marcus. So here we go. What do you tell me about evolution? Tell me about the story of evolution. Give it to me in 40 seconds and in a way that makes you and I, that in the end, you can say that you and I are fundamentally equal.
So humanity started in East Africa, and from there, genetically, we have different phenotypical values and probabilities that can give us different face features, eyes, nose, and skin color. And from there, as Africans migrated out of the African continent, there's less sun exposure because we're farther away from the equator. And so that less sun exposure drives natural selection and evolution to occur. And that means that less melanin production is needed. So therefore, people who have less melanin become more prevalent in the society. And as a whole, it starts to lighten in comparison to what it was before, and
All right.
African
All right.
ancestry.
Dude, awesome, man. Awesome. Hey, Josh, put Josh on really fast. Good. Marcus, hold tight on that. All right. We're going to talk to Josh for a second. Jeff, can you pin Josh up, please?
He doesn't have a video on at the moment.
Josh, you got to put your video on, my friend. He doesn't have his audio going either. Hang on. Hey, when you guys get when just know when you get pulled out of the waiting room, and turn your video on right away and get your audio going. Josh. So listen, Marcus, while we're waiting for Josh. So here's the thing, man. It matters that you have this story down, right? Because having the story down is really the way of understanding where it is and how it is that human beings can be seen to be fundamentally on an equal playing field, right? Otherwise, historically speaking, these are the stories that allow us to maintain really what would be identified as racist systems of understanding. So here, let me dude, hey, if Josh isn't coming on, can you get somebody else on? Joy, anybody, bring anybody in. Doesn't matter. I'm going to ask them a question. Marcus, this is going to be an awesome question for you. So watch Twitch because you're going to watch a couple images.
Okay.
Hey, Kayla, you're on, man. Can you turn your yo, what's up? There you are.
Hello.
Kayla, how are you?
Wait.
Hey, what's your
There. Okay. Hello.
yeah, I gotcha. There you are.
Okay.
Where,
Hello.
Kayla, where are you? Are you on campus?
No, I currently live in Germany.
In New Jersey? Where in New Jersey?
No, Germany.
Oh, in Germany?
Mhm.
What are you doing in Germany? Are you in the
Oh.
class or are you just watching?
No, I am in the class. My dad is in the military, and so we're overseas.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome, man. Hey, so I'm going to show you a couple images and I want you to explain were you watching Marcus?
Yes.
Okay. Awesome, man. So Jeff, Kayla, do you have Twitch on? Can you watch
Yeah.
the images? Okay. Go ahead, Jeff. Put the, so just, you can keep your Twitch mic muted and our Twitch sound muted, and you can keep everything else on. Jeff, can you put those first images up? Not these, the other ones. The next one, the next one actually. Yeah, no, go back. Okay, right there. Hey, so Kayla, I want you to look at this image right here. And Marcus, you can look at it too. It should be showing up on your screen right about now, right?
Mhm.
And the question is, Kayla, where is Marcus in this image?
Like, what exactly do you mean?
Like, where is he? Where would you fit him in the image?
As
This, by the way, this isn't a trick question. Like, you can't get it wrong because I'm going to tell you about the image in a second. But this is a standard image explaining evolution, right? If you open your high school textbooks, would have this image in it. You could go to National Geographic and you might see this image. So where would you stick Marcus? Where in that lineup?
As a man, as the one furthest to the right.
Further to the right?
Yeah, the one of the man with the brown hair.
So wait, so that guy is, so that's the most evolved person.
Yeah.
Right? So you would say that Marcus would be more evolved than that guy?
No, I think like equivalent, right?
Yeah. Here, let me show you a different image. Go to the next one, Jeff. So does this next one, does it pop up for you? And hang on, we'll give it about 8 seconds. And then we're going to go with this image that you're going to see here. This is sort of like a play. They're just having fun, right? It's just a critique of Western culture, right? That guy on the far right looks like my old boss, actually, but I won't name any names. Where does Marcus fit in this one?
I mean, if this has to do with like, are you talking about like actual development as a person, or because these are different skin colors and obviously
Just like where you would put him. Now, like, see, so this is an evolutionary image. Okay.
Mhm.
I look at this image and I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of get it, right? But I'm thinking if I'm Marcus, or if I'm a black person or I'm a brown person, and this is the evolution of humanity, right? Homo sapiens. It just sort of shows the guy on the right is Homo sapien, the most evolved, right? So it's sort of like, whoa, all right, we go from, Homo erectus to Homo sapiens, and it's like, all right, that's cool. So it's indicating that the guy on the far right and the guy to the left of him a little bit are the most evolved people, because this is how evolution works, right? We come from primates. We start with primates, and then this is the story, right? This is the general story, right? Marcus, science guy. So this is general story. Like, we evolved from primates. Kayla, right? You've heard the story a million times. And then from primates, the primates then evolve, and then eventually they start walking upright, and eventually they start standing upright, and then eventually, we go from to Neanderthals to Homo, and so on and so forth, right? And before we know it, we get to Homo sapiens, and that's and we go from Homo erectus to Homo sapiens. Where's Marcus? Because clearly, white people are the most evolved in this.
I would say in between the farthest to the right, the second farthest, and the third. So in between the lighter brown skin guy and the white guy.
Yep, exactly. Okay, let's go to the next slide, Jeff. We're gonna do another one here. Let's try this one. Oh wait, hang on. I thought we have another slide, don't we? Do we not have another one? Oh, I had one. All right, so listen. So here's the problem, man. Jeff, you can go back to the one with the guy that looks like my old boss. So here's the issue. Kayla, what do you know about evolution?
I know that, like what you said, the Neanderthals and everything, and eventually we developed and we started losing, like kind of adapting to our environment and everything. And I mean, I don't know specifics, but I do know like our bodies changed and everything. And
Do you know the creation story? Are you a Christian or a Muslim?
I'm Christian Catholic, but my parents are more like, they grew up Catholic and everything, going to church like every day and stuff. I didn't really grow up like that. I guess they got tired of going to church. So I mean, I'm Catholic, but I don't really know a lot about the religion.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, but you know the basic creation story that there's the Garden of Eden and Adam and Eve, or Adam and Steve. It was, I don't know, Adam and Eve, Adam and Steve. I don't know. It could have been two men, but it wasn't a man and woman. I don't know. I forget. Okay, so anyway, and that somehow that story, God started somewhere, and then there's a God, and then everything got created, and so on, right? And so my take is on this. I want to just say something really fast to those of you who follow the creation story or follow the evolution story. It doesn't really matter to me. I have a lot of other things that I'm worrying about than worrying about like the story, right? What I will say to people who adopt the creation story is the vast majority of people who embrace creation don't really understand evolution and couldn't talk about evolution much more than, you know, we just did here, right? That's about as far as most people who embrace creation, that's about as far as most people could go in explaining evolution. But the truth is that thousands upon thousands of books and tens and hundreds of thousands of research papers have been written about the evolutionary story. It's immensely complex. You can't just boil it down to an image like that, because it's far more complex than that. It's a really fascinating story about how species, the emergence of species, you know, single cell organisms and the multi-cell organisms, and then just the blasting forward of all these many, many different species. And the vast majority of people, what we do is, you know, we grow up in an intellectual tradition, like say a religious tradition, like we have. And then people just embrace the religious tradition of our families, right? Like Marcus, I assume your parents are Christians, right? So you grew up non-denominational Christian. So you accept that because that then becomes your story. Although now you're a scientist, so that's all coming into it's going to get tested really hard. And you will no longer have that story. At the end of 4 years, you will not have that same story. You will develop your own way of understanding these things, right? And so the issue is, we're born into a particular story, and then we just accept that story. And then we don't really think, most of us don't think a lot about it unless we're thrust into the serious study of things. At the same time, which for me is problematic, right? Because I just don't think it's a good idea for me to believe anything that I can't explain, or reject something that I can't explain, right? So it's like every conspiracy theory that's out there, I have to stop, and whether it's QAnon or anything, I got to stop and be like, hang on, let me look at this thing. Like, what's being stated, right? At the same time, there are a lot of science people who reject creationist ideas, who've never really given a thought to where spirit came from. Like, what is spirit? What is God? What are we talking about when we're talking about God? This is mystical and magical, right? God is not just like an old man, like creating stuff. God is like this, what we're talking about is the mystery of life itself. Like, where did consciousness come from, and what is it, and what does it mean? And oh my God, it's like you're on an acid trip, right? Like, I didn't understand God until I did mushrooms for the first time, by the way, back a long time ago. Not saying I would recommend it, but I would say I went into before I took mushrooms, I was a hardcore atheist. And after I took mushrooms, I was like, damn, this is okay. There's something else going on here. You know what I mean? I'm still a scientist. So at the same time as a lot of creationists, thinkers don't understand evolution at all. They have a very simplistic understanding of evolution. Science thinkers don't have a very sophisticated understanding of creation and life and the origin of life, which is pretty awesome, actually. So the two can go together, Marcus, right? Like, the two can definitely go together, but you got to put them together. You got to find some way to put them together. And so Marcus, let me ask you, where do you think you were in that lineup right there? Going back to that. And I'm going to ask Josh also, and because, you know what, I'm just going to ask Josh, man. Dude, Jeff, can you pin Josh on? And you can start your videos on, just start your audio. Josh, what's up, man? You're in the library too. Look at that.
I am.
You're like a serious student, man. Not hanging out in Germany. Come on, are you kidding me? Listen, man, and going back to that photo in the lineup, where are you in that lineup, man?
I wasn't able to see the photo.
Oh, dang. Jake, do you have Twitch on?
I can pull it up. I was going back and forth because like my audio and video wasn't.
Okay, hang on, man. Marcus, then just sit tight. Josh, sit tight. I'm going to bring you in a hot minute on something else. Marcus, I want to just go back to you. Jeff, can you just pin Marcus on? Where are you in this lineup?
I'd say I'm the fat chubby guy.
It doesn't look like you, my friend.
Yeah,
It might look like
yeah.
you in about 40 years if you drink a lot of Miller Lite.
Yeah, I mean, I would say like, I know, so the farthest end of the spectrum, I would say that I'm that guy. It's just represented as someone who has less melanin in their skin.
So listen, man. So here's the problem. Here's the issue, right, with those slides. So Kayla, so I put you really on the spot, right, Kayla, because you like had to be like, oh my God, I can't say the wrong thing here. I mean, this is like, but the issue is this is like the racist. This is systemic racism in a way. This is an example of racism that people don't really see, right? When you developed images, those images are clearly developed by white people. You know, I mean, there's just no question. And who's the most evolved person? It's a white person. Of course it is, because white people are most evolved. I mean, that's the nature of the game, right? Because this is what allowed white people to, subjugate black people and genocide to do all the things that we've done, man, to build all the buildings we've done, the bridges, the this, the that, and the other thing. Like, this is what allows it. So this is essential core racism. We put ourselves as the most evolved, but that's not how this stuff works. Because human beings, when you get to the end, human beings are fundamentally the same. Like, we're not very different, right? But we develop these images as these sort of racist tropes that we don't even realize we're still using them in textbooks. Because when you look at this, and I think this is why so many black people do not accept the basic science of evolution. Because when you look at these kinds of images, you just see white guys as the most evolved. Like, why would you accept that? Marcus, why would you accept that?
I mean, yeah, I get that though. A lot, it's very Eurocentric and very centered towards like towards lighter melanin and Eurocentric features though for like a lot of things in terms of history.
Yep. All right, man. So here we're gonna do this other thing. Josh, I'm assuming you have your you have Twitch up, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so here we're gonna look at another image. Put that map up, Jeff, if you would. Right. So here's a map. Now the numbers are a little bit off because we've shifted some things. We're learning a lot of things. Okay. So Josh, what I want you to do, you can see this map, right? Right now. Mm-hmm. I want you as a Christian to explain this map to us. Where explain the map. This is the fundamental map of human evolution and the pathways through which human beings populated the planet. There's no Garden of Eden in here, my friend. Where was the Garden of Eden, by the way? Where actually was it? Okay, got it. All right, so here you go. Explain this to us as a Christian. No, not as a Christian, just as you, as a thinker. What happened? What's this telling us?
It looks like just like how human beings expanded over time. It's like maybe starting, I guess looks like they started in Africa, which is towards the left. Mm-hmm. And it looks like, I guess over the years, they went further up north and right there, like where that border between, I believe, Alaska and the edge of Russia, they crossed over and they were able to kind of like expand out to different parts of the Americas, North and South America. And then I believe like the red is sort of representing almost like the amount of, I guess, like the amount of populations, like it was like a dense population.
Just the path. Just the path.
Oh, just the path. Oh, okay.
In the years. Yeah. Of Homo sapiens. Yeah. Mm. So where do we think human beings started? Like where did Homo sapiens, where's the idea? Where's, say, the Garden of Eden, man? Where is it precisely?
I believe it's near the Euphrates River. To the Euphrates River.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's right in the Nilotic region. is the idea. This is where we find the oldest fossils, right? So like and like, you know, Lucy is, so I was, you know, and when you go to Addis Ababa in Ethiopia, it's really cool to see Lucy. Of course, you don't see like the real bones of Lucy. You see a replica of it. The bones are down in the basement of the museum, but it's pretty awesome. Lucy's like that missing link. It's about that tall. Okay, so right there, it's actually, instead of 200,000 years ago, new data or leading us to say it's about 300,000 years ago, Homo erectus emerged and left Africa about 200,000 years ago and headed out around the world. So why is it then that let me ask the three of you, why is it then that we have different physical features? Why do look at like all of us, right? Like we all look the same. I mean, we look different. Why is that?
I mean, you go to different areas and you just adapt.
What happened? Why? Anybody? Kayla, how about you?
I mean, different people migrate to different areas, and obviously they meet other people in different, I guess, like villages or whatever, and they, you know.
And what about if you're the first people there? How is that? Like, why are you, Kayla, what's your ancestry, by the way?
Race-wise, I'm white and I am Hispanic.
Yeah.
And my ethnicity, I have a lot. I am Polish, Irish, Italian, I'm Mexican, and I'm a little bit like Native, but I mean, we've talked about it, so like I don't really necessarily know if that's goes along with everybody else.
Hey, Josh, you can see Kayla, right? What like on her features would lead you to think that she was part Native?
I don't know.
Or Marcus? Do you guys see that? Can you see that at all? Hey, by the way, one of the things you all will get used to, I'm really into faces. I study faces a lot. And so I'm always, go to camera one. So everyone can so you can just see this for a second. So I'm really into faces. Okay. I'm into different features and why it is that, you know, people have different size, like why our brows are different and the bridge of our noses are different and our eyes are shaped the way they are and our lips are shaped the way they are and the space in between our lips and our ears and our heights and our weight and our hair and everything, the way our eyebrows are, all of this stuff is really fascinating to me. So what I want you to say is if you get on the screen, especially today, one of the things we're going to do is we're going to look at people's features because we have these different features, which we're going to talk about how they came to be, but it's really awesome. And one thing I want you to get from this class a lot and from the whole class is to normalize how it is that we talk about these things, that they're just different, and normalize it. Like, look at us, right? So as soon as Kayla popped on the screen, for example, all right, we can go back. I immediately knew, I could just see in your faces. Do you guys see that at all? Like, do you see what it is about her? Or maybe not, because you don't.
I mean, I kind of see like the nose and the eyes. They remind me of pictures that I've seen before.
Yeah. See, it's your cheeks for sure. You have these sort of high cheeks for sure. Yeah. And my guess is, yeah, exactly. And like my guess is, if you look at the part of your family that's Hispanic, that's Latino, where is it? Did you say Mexican or Hispanic?
Yeah, I'm Mexican.
Mexican. So that you're on your Mexican side, I would say you probably most certainly have indigenous blood. And if you look at the people on your Mexican side, you probably look like have some features of your cheeks of some of the women on that side. I don't know that, but I just like immediately when you came on the screen, that's what I saw. And all right, man. And like, and Kayla, can you see like the extreme, the differences between Josh and Marcus? Like it's totally different features. Like, do you see that? Like, it's hard to see Josh because he has a mask on, dude.
Yeah.
Because you're in the library, right? I can't ask you to pull your mask down just a little bit. I'm not allowed to do that. But anyway, yeah, you really see that. All right. Anyway, look, man, here's the thing. What happened that led us to have different features? What happened to human beings? So we got Kayla responded. Josh, do you have an answer to that?
What happened to
Why is it that human beings have such different features?
it's like over time, like as human beings spread out, like different climates, different weather, I guess like as they go like different places, like, they have to learn to like their bodies start to adapt. So like, if they're adapting to like a colder climate or a hotter climate, even
like,
skin collection goes into that as well.
Okay, so like when we left Africa, right?
Mm-hmm.
We all of us, right? Because Africa is the motherland to everybody, right? To all two-leggeds. And when we left Africa, we all looked essentially the same. There were some differences, but mostly Homo sapiens looked the same. And when you look at those red arrows, like leaving Africa, those red arrows are a population of people that aren't that different from one another. And then what changed? This is the question, like what changed? Because this is what really matters. This is what we're arguing about. You guys have it?
I mean, I don't necessarily know for sure. I think there's still a lot of research that needs to be done in that area. But from what I've known about genetics is that there's different variations and I think like alleles of different phenotypical traits, and maybe that has something to do with it in terms of like the probability.
All right, man. All right, so listen. So here, Jeff, throw that next slide up with the text on it. Yeah, so look, there are a few things that happen when people move out. You have a population of people. We're going back a couple 100,000 years, and people are starting to migrate around the world. They're just accidental genetic mutations, right? Like just accidental. They just happen, and then one sticks. Like so, for example, maybe like my father, just for whatever reason, has a nick in his ear, right? Just this really kind of odd. Like a nick, it's like a bump, a nick, and no male on his side of the family had it, but my brother and I have it, and like, whoa, what is that? Like, what is that? Like, it's just a mutation. It's just this really kind of strange thing. And then, well, I don't have kids, but we have a nephew. I have a niece and a nephew, but my nephew has it. Let's say, right? And so, like, maybe this thing just now takes off, and like all these, maybe down the road, there are all these people in this sort of tribe or group of people that all have this like nick in the ear, right? Now we're looking at 200,000 years of transformation and change all over the world. So lots of things are happening. So a lot of accidental genetic mutations, just boom, the genome, something goes on. Sexual selection, right? Like maybe we look at like, maybe it's just that a lot of things just were preferred. Just sexually, they were more desirable, like certain features. And so therefore they were more passed on because people with those features were really seen as ideal partners, sexual partners for one reason or another, right? And genetic adaptation to the environment. When you go around to different areas of the world, you as people migrated, because they were going to migrate, because that's just the nature of how the human story is all about migration. So people got to adapt to the environment. Some environments are eventually you go far enough north, it's really cold, or it's really wet, or it's really dry, or it's really hot, or it's all sorts of different things, right? So your body's going to adapt. Certain bodily features, right? Certain components of our bodies are better adapted for certain kinds of environments, like a cold versus a hot environment. And so it makes sense. Right. So therefore, those kinds of features are much more likely to thrive among particular population groups. And then diet and lifestyle. You go certain places, maybe certain foods aren't available, and then people don't grow as tall in those environments because they don't have access to those foods. And so therefore, it's like, okay, there you go. Then things change. That's essentially the story of evolution, and it's incredibly complex, and it's a story that will never be understood because we're going to just be endlessly studying it and we'll never know. But these are all of the things that population groups are finding. So Josh, let me ask you this question, man. You ready? What's the most desirable physical features on another person? When you think about all the different population groups, all the different ways that people, tall, short, wide, thin, straight hair, tightly coiled hair, loosely coiled hair, whatever it is, what's the most desirable physical features? Josh, are you there? Are you unmuted? Yeah, you, man. Yeah. I'm muted.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I said I feel like it's a very subjective question.
Okay, go ahead.
Well,
Talk about why it's subjective. What makes it subjective?
I mean, I feel like to everyone there are different features that everyone individuals like. Would you agree?
Mm-hmm. What about for groups?
What do you mean in terms of groups?
Well, like what's the ideal feature for survivability? Pretend for a moment.
I think
you know.
I think when we look back, sort of like in the 1950s or maybe the 1900s, growing up, for example, women tended to look up, if he could take care of his children, if he was making a good salary, if he could provide for the family. These are some things that women would turn to look up, and the opposite, a man would look up. As a woman, can she take care of my kids, or is she able to help support me even in my worst times, and hey, how does she deal even with my family? And then, like, for example, woman on the opposite end will look like, okay, like if I wanted to marry this man, well, how would I look at, how does he treat his own mother? How does he treat his father? It's how does he treat his brother, his sister? Right. So I feel like it's very subjective. Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's cool. All right, so then let me ask you this question. Historically speaking, if you could go back 50,000 years, what's the most ideal features that you could have as a human being, as a Homo sapien? What would you want people in your group to look like?
I mean, everyone's different. I don't know. I mean, like I said, it's a very subjective question.
No, this one actually isn't subjective. There's one question that you need to ask. That's the key question, man. So hang on. I want to say it again. So I want you to kick your. So here, you go back. You're going to go back, let's say 30,000 years, right? I'm going to just send you back in time, and I'm going to send you back with a clan of 100 people. Okay. And you all are going to have to survive. And I'm sending you back with 100 people. What features do you want those 100 people to have?
Well, I guess if we're looking in terms of a population, some things we would look at is, are they able to reproduce? I mean, it's basic trait, But
yeah, so listen, man. So now this is good. I like that you're there. So listen, man, here's the question. The question would be, it depends on where we're going. Where are you going to send us? You're going to send us to a hot environment, a dry environment, a moist environment, a cold environment? You're going to send us to an environment where people eat fish, or people eat meat, or people only eat vegetables, or people eat only grains? Like, what environment are you going to send us to? That would be the question that you would want to ask. And that would be the question that would reveal to you what the ideal features you would want to have for your clan or your group. Because your survivability would be based on those features. So for example, if I were sending you to somewhere in the equatorial region, then you want to have your skin color for sure. And if I'm going to send you up to the far north, you want to have my skin color, because your skin color isn't going to, you're not going to be able to get enough UV rays from the sun in the far north, but I am. But in the south, In the equatorial region, you're going to be protected and I won't be.
I see what you're saying, but I feel like in terms of like man and how we come about, like we were able to adapt. So for example, even some of my skin color, you would say up north, it would be hard for me to survive, but I can easily, back then they made skin furs, they made furs out of animals, and that's how they were able to survive,
Yeah, but
so when you think about,
yeah, dude, awesome, man. Awesome response. The issue is not that fast. The body doesn't respond that fast. Like, so when we're looking at the course of 200,000, 300,000 years of adaptability, that's a long time. And, lots of people died off because they didn't have the right features, right? But it takes a long, long time. So you wouldn't do very well.
And you're saying lots of people died off. Where are you pulling this?
No, so the idea is like a long time with all these genetic mutations and stuff. So like people whose bodies weren't like, the idea is you want a body type that really fits the environment where you're at, right? In order for you to really thrive and be healthy and pass your genes on. And people aren't living that long. Keep in mind, like people aren't living that long. And so therefore, like if we go back 20,000 years and we're like, listen, man, we're going to send you to the far northern tundra of Sweden. We're going to send you there. And we're going to send me there. Within a couple generations, my population group, if we're going to send my group there with light skin, right? And then there's going to be 50 of us, and we're going to send a group there with darker skin like you. And then the two of it, we're going to just be like this, like one of these reality television shows. We're going to say like in 2 generations, who's going to be thriving? My people are more likely to thrive.
Okay. So let me ask you this now. In today's society, me and you, we live in the same country. Predominantly Pennsylvania, same area. Why can we both survive?
Yeah, because we're not living off the land like dude. Thank you for that question. Because we can survive in that way. Like I can wear a hat, like in the sun, right? Like your body's able to take in more sun, and you can still get skin cancer, all sorts of things that can happen to you. But I can just wear a hat and I can be protected, right? And so there are all sorts of ways in which we can just adapt, because we can eat certain foods. I can eat the foods I need to eat to adapt in certain areas. You can eat foods that you need to eat. But like, I'll say one thing, for example, you and skin, do you know that like you and Marcus, for example, so Marcus, same with you, you can like hop in here really fast. Do you know, like the two of you, like you need to get a lot of sun in the wintertime in a place like Happy Valley, man. We have a lot of days like this. And for you all to really sustain, like to be really healthy and have your bodies operating in an optimal way, like you have to make sure that your diet, you get enough you're producing enough calcium and vitamin D and all of that you're getting enough sunlight. But we don't talk about that. There's another piece of racism, right? Like, why is it that everybody knows that, light-skinned people have got to wear suntan lotion, but why aren't we talking to darker people with darkly pink-veined skin? Why don't we have these PSAs, like public service announcements saying, listen, man, in these short winter days with very little sun, you all got to make sure you get as much sun as you possibly can, because you need that, right? To keep your body really healthy and producing calcium. Yeah, go ahead, man.
So I know you talked about a little bit about earlier how you said that, we have this today, right? Yeah. So let me ask you, what about Egypt? What did they have? How are they able to survive as a nation? Because remember, Egypt, was survived, if we want to look at like 10,000, 20,000 years, and they're still even around today. They may not be the superpowers they were back then.
Yeah.
So what did they do? Not that, how were they able to survive?
Yeah. No. So listen. Here. So here's the idea. Jeff, can you put that map back on? The up really fast? Dude, these are really awesome questions. I love the fact that we can just have a conversation here. And by the way, a bunch of people who are waiting in the waiting room, we may not get to you until next class. Well, we're going to get to some of you. So listen, people are thriving all over. So the idea is as population groups move to different regions, certain physical characteristics of those groups are really more adaptable to those regions, right? And those people with those body types are really thriving, right? But people can build societies anywhere. You can go to the far north, and you can have a really thriving society, right? And you can go to the hottest, like let's take the the Nilotic region of like just really intense, the Sahara, sub-Sahara, like northern, the Sahara Desert. Like there are people that survive in the Sahara Desert. That's fine, right? But you know, but when you go to like this Nilotic region and you look at people, they're going to be in that kind of environment. You're not going to see a lot of short, squat people. You're going to see really tall, thin people because being tall and thin allows you to dissipate heat. If you're short and squat, you know, you're going to retain heat. You're not going to do well because people don't have air conditioning. They just don't have a way to survive. But if you go far north, people who we don't see anywhere in the north. So if you look up in all these regions in the far north, we don't see any human groups that were tall and thin. Everybody, all the population groups that migrated north, as they migrated north all around, the shorter people just became shorter and squatter and wider. They're really retaining all that heat. They got more fat on their faces because the fat on their faces allowed them to really deal with the cold. And so we see that with all these population groups. Whereas here, right in this Nilotic region, all across, right, we see people with the darkest skin, because you really need dark skin there. But as you go north, lighter skin is fine. Does that make sense? So Egypt, like, oh yeah, of course, the Egyptians just, you know, so hang on, here we go, right? So let's go with Egypt here. It's like, yeah, now people, we have different features. All throughout Africa, by the way, immensely different features. So anyway, what other question? Marcus, do you have a question? No, go ahead. Josh, go ahead.
No. Marcus can go.
Just like a random question.
Anybody else? Anybody who's in the waiting room have a question? If you do, just raise your hand and they'll bring you in real fast.
That's not a thing. But do you want to recommend so we can look at the features that are some Middle Eastern Egyptian people?
I couldn't say like a general curiosity I have.
Yeah.
So I don't know much about like this part of it. So how does like the food change how does that change like your genetics? I just not well versed in the area.
How does what change?
So I know you said talking about like eating fish gives you certain different traits. I'm not well versed in the area.
Different diets, right? Different diets. So different diets might lead you to grow to, you know, get the sustenance you need to grow stronger in certain ways, to grow taller, to grow, whatever it is. I mean, there are all sorts of features that can happen as a result of some diets and not other diets, and it's incredibly complex, right? So I can look at a few things, though. We can look at a few things. Josh, do you have another question?
Yes, I was gonna ask, like, I remember you said, like, going back to like the original question, we talked about like how Egypt, kind of like, you know, how they spread out, they had different, what was the word you said? You said like how they had different features. So I'm asking you, like how are they able to survive back then? Like you never, because, you know, I'm saying like, even with our society today, like we go different places and we're able to survive. And we could honestly, you know, because you could say like there are dark skinned people everywhere, well, not necessarily everywhere in the world, but like even in Russia or like even Alaska, like, you know, colder places, and they're able to survive. So I'm saying like Egypt, or maybe they had lighter skinned people or dark skinned people, they were still able to survive. And I think like, you know, man has grown like a lot with the technology and everything. So it's like even something as simple as a jacket is considered technology, or as whether it's a smartphone is considered technology. I feel like just in our generation today, we see that something with electronics in it is technology. But like without realizing, like back then they had pyramids, like, you know, they weren't an ignorant or a lazy group of people, you know.
No, dude,
so I'm saying, I guess what I'm trying to say is like, with different people, how they went to different places, like the technology for them to live and to adapt is still there. And, you know, so I don't necessarily say you can discredit that of someone were to go to Russia, or someone were to go to like a northern area, like someone with my skin color, you know, I may not be able to live as easily, but with the technology that's available, you know, whether it's animal skins or fur, like be able to live.
Okay, but that's different now. That's like today. right? So here what we see is we see, historically speaking, right? We see, I'll show you a map. I don't have it right now, but I'll show you a map that we see as people migrate north and as they migrate south, skin colors historically change. They get lighter, right? And the thing is that human population groups, like people migrated to certain areas and then they stayed in those areas for tens of thousands and thousands of years. And then their population, their phenotype, like their genetic admixture started to build around that particular region, right? You see that. And so it's not like we're looking at thousands and thousands of years of this, right? Many, many, many generations. And so it's not today you can go anywhere and you can survive and you can be fine. But what we're looking at is how the evolutionary process happened. And it's a thing we don't study, and we don't study very well, and we don't pay very much attention to it, right? So this is just the body adapts. And I think it's because it's really difficult to answer these questions that a lot of us just throw it away and be like, oh, okay, well, it doesn't make any sense. It's like, no, actually, we really understand a lot of things. So here, for example, let me go with let me ask, put Omar on really fast if you could, right?
Well, how's it going?
Omar.
How's it going?
Where are you? Were you on before? Where are you from?
I was. I'm from Egypt, actually.
Oh, you're the Egypt guy.
I heard the topic.
Okay. Well, all right, man. So let me ask you a question.
Uh-huh.
Why do you think we have different shapes and noses?
It's definitely because of the sun. Like he was saying, the evolution about it. You have in Egypt more south. You got people really close to Sudan. They're really dark skinned, and then we got Bedouins, or the people who live in the desert. They're more, you could see more of their like head, like there's a lot of skin kind of from the sun, so like their eyes are usually smaller. Where you go up north, there's more lighter skin for sure. Yeah.
So you see that, and like people have this idea, as someone who's African, people have this idea, like when we say African, when people talk about Africa, what people are thinking about are sub-Saharan Africa, right? And people are thinking sub-Saharan Africa, and that's it. Nobody's thinking about you, right? The entire northern part of Africa is people who are looking like you.
The cities, yeah.
So do you have any idea why you have different shaped noses? Like here, look at my nose, for example, right? Can you go to one really fast? I don't know if you might have to look at the stream for this, right? So just look at my nose from the side. Like you can see this, right? It's like first off, see that right there, how it's really flat. You can land. I broke my nose when I was a kid. But you see, like I have a really small nose. Like it's not very large this way, and it's not very large this way. And I mean, it's relatively speaking, right? It's a small relative. I mean, there are other people with smaller noses than me, and there are a lot of people with larger noses than me, but relatively speaking, it's probably a little bit small. Hang on, I get this. And see how it's like pointed. So it kind of goes down and it's a little pointed like that, right? What is that? That's just a family thing, right? But why do some people have really large noses? Why do some people have flatter noses? So hang on. Let me go here again. So some people have much flatter noses, right? The bone here, the bridge bone is really flat, and it's flat here. And some people have really wide noses. My nose isn't very wide, but other people do. Like Omar, do you have any sense of why that is?
Yeah. In hotter areas, it's kind of gets harder to breathe, especially when you're doing like hard work. So like usually have bigger noses so they can breathe easier. But then when you go up north in the colder weather, feel like it's kind of shorter, where you don't want that much cold air going into your nose, and they're more close together, so like there's more blood going through them to just like warm the air that you're breathing in. It's all like weather and stuff related, I feel like, for sure.
No, dude, awesome, man. Yeah, if you go where it's really cold, then you're gonna have, when it's really cold out and you take a deep breath, like it hurts. You know what I mean? And you can't do that. Like that's just not good. So when you go north, you want smaller nostrils because you want to take in less air, and you want the air to warm itself before it gets into the lungs. Whereas if you're in a really hot, humid environment, then it's really good to have a hot, humid environment, right? It's good to have a much flatter, a much wider nose, and the fatter, it's like the inhale can be moistened. Like you sort of retain that with a flatter nose and a wide, like, whereas your nostrils, you don't need your nostrils to be really small. In fact, it's more efficient. And so hang on, Josh,
Yeah.
this goes to you. So the issue is this, it's just more efficient. And so people whose genes are going to thrive in those environments, in an environment where it's moist, it's more moist and it's hotter, are going to tend to be people you're going to see this slowly over time, generation after generation after generation, like hundreds of generations. You're going to start to see flatter noses and wider noses. And so today, when we look around and we see people who are originally from certain areas, we tend to see these types of features. Not everybody, right? Because and when I look at, so you got it, not everybody. So listen, man, let me ask, how about eyes? I'm going to ask wait, so who in the call is, I want to look at eyes really fast. So who is Asian in the call? Can you, I don't see what your name, I don't know what your name is. So can you just put her on? Hey, yeah, exactly. Hey, okay. What's your name?
My name is Jen Lee.
Jen Lee. And where are you now?
I'm at home.
Where is that?
Philly.
In Philly? Okay. So what is hey, wait, anyway, let me ask somebody on the stream. How about Kevin, man? Or Nakima? What's Jin Lee's, what is her ancestry? Where's her family from? What do you think?
Do I have to be specific?
Yeah, get as specific as possible. She just gave it away to you, actually. Look at that. If you look how she spells it, she gives it away.
I'm going to go somewhere around, maybe around China, maybe? Lee, Lee.
Yeah. Around China. So
it's a very large area.
Hey, can you put Nakima and Jin Lee on together? This would be good.
Not unless if everybody else turns their cameras off.
Okay, so can everyone turn their cameras off really fast? And we're gonna put Nakima and Jin Lee on. Yeah, we'll bring it back on. Just watch on. You can listen on here, but watch on Twitch. All right, man. So, all right, man. So, go ahead. All right. So Nakima, explain. So Jin Lee, so first off, is it Nakima? Is it Jin Lee or Lee Jin? Which one's her last name?
I will assume that Lee is your last name.
And if she were to say it to you, would she say her first name first, or her last name first?
First name first. You're currently in Philly, so first name first.
How do you think her parents do that? What do you do in her country? Which is the name that she says first?
I don't know. That's a good question, actually.
All right, well, let's ask. So, Jin Lee. So Jin is your first name. Lee is your family name.
Yeah.
But when you introduce yourself in your culture, it's Lee Jin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so you are, and what's your ancestry?
I am 100% Korean.
And Lee, by the way, Nekima, Lee, Lee is a Korean spelling. If it was Li, you could assume that she was probably Chinese, but Lee is a common Korean name. So were you born in the US or born in Korea?
I was born in Korea.
Uh-huh. When did you come here?
So I was, I believe, 4 or 5 when I came to America.
Yeah. Okay, so let me ask you this. Have you heard the epicanthic eye fold?
No.
The like what we call it, we in colloquial terms we say the Asian eye.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
Yeah. So Nekima, do you know where the Asian eye is from? The epicanthic eye fold. Do you know what that is? Do you know why her eyes are different than your eyes?
Wasn't it because it was better for like keeping sand out of the eyes originally?
I don't know. Let's ask Jin Lee.
Aesthetic thing.
Do you know why, Jin Lee? Do you know where it's from?
What I've learned is to keep a lot of the fine particles out of our eyes.
Yeah.
Prevent a lot of sun damage.
Yeah. So we don't really know, by the way, for sure. But hang on, stay on the stream. Keep them on the screen. So listen, Nekima, what makes the epicanthic eye? What makes her eyes different than your eyes?
There's like in the inner corner, like a skin or like a fold there that other eye shapes don't have.
Dude, awesome, man. Jin Lee, do you know? I mean, do you have that? Is that your assessment?
Sorry, I couldn't hear. What was it again?
So what makes Nekima's eyes different than your eyes?
I guess like it's the size. Like hers are like more bigger.
Are her eyeballs bigger than your eyeballs?
I would just like the shape of it.
The shape of what? Her eyes or her eye?
Like,
the skin around the eyes.
The skin around the eyes.
And the skull, and your skulls. If we could just remove all of your skin and muscle and tissue and everything, and we just looked at your skulls, the three of us, right? Let's bring me in it also here. So would our skulls be the same? Like would the size of the eye, the socket, would it be the same size? Do you guys, the two of you think? What do you think?
I think it's roughly about the same size.
I believe so.
Yeah. So Nekima, you're definitely on point that there's like this a little tiny fold here right in the corner. We call it the epicanthic fold. And it's just folds and it just pulls the eye, Jin Lee. It pulls. Does everybody call you Jin Lee? Because it's just like those two.
People just call me Jen because a lot of people take my name as an alcoholic drink.
Yeah. All right. I have everyone I know whose last name is Lee. I call them by both their names when they have. Okay. So listen. So Jin. So it's like, yeah, it's just this little fold, Nekima. You're right. And that's all it is. Like, so the three of us, our eyeballs are the same size. Our eye sockets and our skulls are exactly the same size. It's just there's this little fold. And then what happens is, Nekima, can you turn to the side really fast? Just so, okay. So wait, take your glasses off so we can see. And then are you comfortable doing this? Are we cool? We good?
I can't see, so it's fine.
Oh, you can't see. All right, turn to the side. All right. So, Jin, can you do a similar thing? Turn to your right, and then you'll be looking at on the video. You're looking. Okay, so here's one thing. So and then look at me. So everyone on the. Oh, hang on, I got to do this. So there's this thing. Okay, so here we are. You want to do number one? Hang on, just stay like that. Okay. So here, there's one thing that we also see of people in the parts of the world is like Asia is we see a brow bone in the West in particular, we have a brow bone that's much more pronounced. Like our eyebrow comes out away further than the eyes. But if you look at Jin, her brow bone comes down right sort of in line with the eyes. And Nekima, your brow bone is much more like mine, right? Where it's pronounced over. And if you look at some people, especially Europeans, they have like this, it's almost like I call it the criminal forehead, because it's just in all the old shows, the old movies, there was like it's like the forehead just comes out way in front of the eyes. But so what we see among people of Asian ancestry is like this brow bone that comes flush with the eyes. Okay, put your glasses on. That's awesome. And so we see that, right? And how cool that is, that we just have, these are just the differences, right? And like one isn't better or worse or whatever, but what it does for you, Jin, and Nakima, what it does for Jin is it means that her, it even pulls the skin a little further, and it gives the appearance that your eyelids are there's less space in between your eyelids, or whatever the case is, right? So that your eyes are smaller. It even gives the appearance of that, but it's really not. Because if we look at our eyes, like, you just see what looks to be more of a flatter surface from like here all the way up to here. And whereas for a lot of people, especially Europeans, we don't have that. And Nakima, you're kind of in between. Nakima, what's your ancestry, by the way?
Both of my parents are from Trinidad, so I'm Caribbean American.
Which means that you're wet. And their parents, are they from Trinidad also?
Mm-hmm.
So that means you're West African, right? So because Trinidad was a slave port, so your family would go back and would be from West Africa, right? And so, in fact, so we would say that. So you're very similar. Oh, dang, we're like late. Okay, hey, y'all, thanks for that. We will, I don't know, thanks. Hey, Nakima and Jin, thanks for being part of the stream there. That was awesome. And everybody else that didn't get on, just plan to jump on next time. We have a lot of stuff. We're just going to keep talking about these things.